Right, so the point of this screen capture is to begin to introduce the concept of tourism. The aim of this is to describe the different types of tourism and explain the causes of the growth of tourism, whilst focusing on some different exam questions at the same time to aid your revision skills. So, what is a tourist? Well, first off, a tourist is and has to be somebody who stays at a place for at least one night, okay? If they're just a day tripper or an excursionist, they're not a tourist, and this is quite an important concept, because a tourist is therefore, the key definition for you, because you could get asked this in the exam, a person who stays in a place for more than one day for leisure, business or other purposes. And therefore tourism is any activities which takes part and the services which support these. Those definitions are important, okay? You could get asked and tested on them in the exam. Now, there's two key concepts to this. Number one, being able to describe the growth of tourism, and number two, being able to explain why this growth exists. These description questions keep coming up. The exam board love using them. Simple reason, they are testing your ability to analyse trends and skills. Gives you some words here to actually allow you to focus on. Rapidly, gradually, fluctuating, rising, falling, peak, steady, constant. Okay, these are the kinds of terms which you can use in any question describing a trend. Okay, also anomaly could be useful as well. So, here's the graph. Okay, pause the video and describe the growth which you can see. Now, the key thing about this graph is it's quite a complex graph. It's deliberately like this. This is what is called a compound line graph. And that means it shows not only the overall trends, but also trends within consonants as well. So, by the 2004 period, which is when this graph was finished for, there were 703 million global tourists as a total. However, most of these were in Europe, which is where our 400 million category was. There was only, and this is the key thing about this graph, there was only approximately 100 million in the Americas and 100 million in East Asia and the Pacific. So it's getting to think about the graph. Please note the trend for the future. If you wanted the full marks on a question like that, you should have picked out the trend for the future, and you should be using data. So, this is what this growth is. Now let's look at why it's actually occurring. As always, whenever you're thinking about a why question, there's three key concepts: economic, social, political. Occasionally you get environmental as well. This question is less relevant, but you can think about it as an issue. Okay, on this slide you've got just basically some bullet points identifying some summary ideas. Now, the question is always going to be explained, so you're going to need to be able to explain how these ideas are important. So for economic factors, we've got greater affluence, there's more money. Exchange rates change, so it becomes cheaper to go to some places than others. Transport's got better, so people are able to get all over the country now, all over the country and all over the world. We've got more leisure time, we've got better communication and advertising, technology's better, the iPad, the iPhone. We can get all these different concepts straight to us, and therefore we can use them. We find out about places through Twitter, through Facebook, so we can find out about these new things. And things are changing, fashion's changing, and products are better now through package holidays. Also, for instance, in Europe, borders are relaxed, so it's easy to get between countries and you don't need the visas to actually get around these places. The next slide is going to have some more specific detail. I'm not going to talk through this, but pause it and then you can develop your ideas, as it says in the bottom right, using country examples, facts and figures to develop your ideas. Okay, now there's obviously a lot of different text in there, but there's lots of different ideas in there which can actually help you developing your concepts. So, final thing today is a series of exam questions. Number one, another description question. This is slightly clever because it's describing the distribution and it's thinking about where the most are and where the least are, and the obvious pattern is that most tourist numbers are in the HICs, okay, with the least in the LICs. It's picking out this distribution, it's picking out trends. Clearly the most overall is in Europe and in Asia. Now if you look at the third question, it's thinking about trends for the future. Europe, North America, East Asia and the Pacific, these markets are saturated, so where's the growth going to come? Well, it's going to come in South America. Think about, as an example, the Olympics in Rio and the World Cup in Brazil. You've got Africa as an area which is going to experience growth and through tourism, particularly economic growth, and you've got the Middle East which is going to experience economic growth as well. These are new markets, new trends and new things to develop. Okay. Now, that middle question, suggesting reasons why other continents have less arrivals than Europe, again, you're going to need to explain your ideas, but your ideas are going to come from the notes you've made earlier, because it's about picking out these trends, picking out these concepts. Okay, that ends this session.